NetsBoy, so let's hear what he has to say. His name is NetsBoy, he thinks the world is all over when the Nets just can't play. What up, Net fans? NetsBoy here, bringing your latest in your Brooklyn Nets news. All right, so the last 4 games for the Nets have just been, bad after bad after bad. This team is just a disaster, and it is becoming comical now. Last 4 games, let's start with the Grizzlies game. Nets are up by 7 with 35 seconds to go. They managed to choke massively, execute like crap, not play any defense, make dumb play after dumb play. Grizzlies tie the game. They go and they lose in double overtime, 125 to 131. Just unbelievable there. Then the game against the Wizards, they were never really in. They got blown out. It was, whatever. Then they lose against the Cavs by 2 out of just, once again, choking and poor execution. And the Cavs are one of the worst teams in the NBA, and they lost to them. And they just, and then they're up by 20 against the Thunder, and of course I said, well, how the hell are they going to screw this up? Because we all know they're going to do it. And sure enough, they do. They lost because Paul George became unstoppable down the stretch of that game, and the Nets had no answer. And so now it just brings the question. Let's just bring the question now of why is this Nets team as bad as they are? Like, we have to really try to figure this out, you know? Why are the Nets this bad? Like, why have they lost 8 straight games? Why are they now 8-18 when they were right around 500 before the Caris LeVert injury? Is it all because of Caris LeVert? Is it all because he's out? Is that the reason? I think that's part of it, but at some point, I think we need to take an objective look and realize that I think we have to start blaming Kenny Atkinson. I think we do. I think that we have been so lenient on him and so, not that tough because of what he's done for this team. He's a great development coach. We've seen the development of players like LeVert, Ronnie Hollis-Jefferson, Spencer Dinwiddie, even D'Angelo Russell, who's looked very good now, Jared Allen. These are all players. Joe Harris. These are all players who've developed under Kenny Atkinson. So I think for the longest time now, we've been giving him a pass and saying, well, look at what he's done with these guys. He's getting so much out of these average players, so he must be a great coach. But I think it's time that we realize he's not a good coach. He's not a good X and O's coach. He's not a good basketball coach. He's a good developmental coach. And there's difference. There's a difference there. And I'm finally starting to realize that by watching the execution. The game against the Cavs with 3.4 seconds, there's no way that play with Spencer Dinwiddie catching and shooting a fadeaway 3-point shot immediately had to be the play. That had to have just been Dinwiddie being a ding-dong and just thinking, I'm going to be the hero, which is another problem the Nets are dealing with, hero ball between Dinwiddie and D'Angelo Russell. It's just like they take a turn saying, I want to make the big shot. Like the game against the Thunder, why the heck, when you're up by 1, why are you shooting a 3-point shot for no reason if you're D'Angelo Russell? Just not even showing any movement, no ball movement, just jack up a 3, dumb shot. 3.4 seconds left the game in the Cavs game, and Spencer Dinwiddie catches the ball and does a fadeaway 3-point shot, not even trying to get one pass or screen. There's 3.4 seconds left in the game. That is so much time. That is one of the worst shots I've ever seen. And I'm telling you, there's no way that had to be the play that Kenny Atkinson wrote up. Because if it is, then Kenny Atkinson should be fired because that's a terrible play. But like I said, all of this has to, at some point, we have to blame the coach, right? We know the personnel on the team is what it is. We know they don't have Caris LeVert. But the Nets have been up by 20 in several of these losses and blown them, like games against the Thunder. They're up by 7 with 35 seconds and blew it against the Grizzlies. We look back at the Jimmy Butler win with the 76ers. The Nets were up by 20 in that game and blew it. There has to be some sort of explanation. And the truth is, this team doesn't execute down the stretch because I don't think they're coached well. It's a terrible thing to say because I really love Atkinson and what he's done for this team in developing these players. But there has to be a point now where we say objectively, there must be a coaching flaw. The Nets constantly are not executing down the stretch. They're constantly being outcoached by the other team. And I have never seen a single inbounds play this season by the Nets down the stretch work once. And they don't even get a shot off half the time. They turn the ball over like they did in the Thunder game. At the end of the Thunder game, again, the ball gets inbounds, knocked out of bounds. Terrible execution. I don't know what these plays are that Kenny Atkinson is trying to have this team do, but they can't do it. So I'm just saying that I think now you lost 8 straight games. You're 8-18. I think it's time to say, you know what? It's the coach's fault. We've been blaming D'Angelo Russell, Dinwiddie. We're blaming the LeVert injury. No. These losses are not on those guys. To me now, it is on Kenny Atkinson and his coaching staff. And Kenny Atkinson has been great. I've said this so many times already, and I'm going to continue to reiterate it. He's been great at what he's done with developing this young team. But everybody has their strengths and weaknesses, and I think we're starting to realize that Kenny Atkinson's strength is development, but not actually X's and O's and execution and coaching. And that's okay because it fits what this Nets team is right now. The whole reason why Kenny Atkinson got the job was because the Nets wanted a developmental, coach. Sean Marks wanted someone who could develop young guys, so he's perfect. But now we're at this transition phase where the expectations has gone up. So now, if you're Sean Marks, or Prokhorov, I don't know how much say he has in it, you need to start looking at Kenny Atkinson objectively and say, okay, is this guy now the coach that we really want to have? If you want to continue to develop, then I say just swallow it and keep on going with this team and give a chance for Kenny Atkinson to develop more guys and see what you got. But if you really had aspirations and expectations of making the playoffs, maybe you have to think about making a coaching change. And personally, I think you shouldn't, because I think that the Nets, even if they were to be a borderline playoff team this year, I don't think they're going anywhere. So I would keep Kenny Atkinson. So I'm not saying fire Kenny Atkinson with this. I'm just saying that I think he's the one to really blame for their losing streak. Because to me, this whole Nets team is still developing and the players still should develop. So I want to keep Kenny Atkinson because he'll develop these players. And, the losing isn't the end of the world since the Nets finally have their draft pick this year. So, hey, having a terrible record is finally useful. It's finally good. So I'm not saying fire Kenny Atkinson, but I'm just saying I think it's time for us as fans and as, I guess I'm technically media because I am, but, people to objectively look at who's at fault, and I think it's Kenny Atkinson. And, we'll see if he can figure it out. Remember, Kenny Atkinson is still a relatively new coach. This is his 3rd year. But I think at some point, it's got to be on him. And I don't know what's going to happen moving forward, but all I know is at 8-18, where this team was, when they were 8-10, and we were like, okay, they're right around 500. They're like right around the playoffs. To go on this losing streak, and mostly home games too. And the worst thing about it is, except for really the Wizards game, the Nets had a chance to win all these games in this 8-game losing streak. So it's just very frustrating, and half the time they were winning. So it's very frustrating. But moving forward, things don't get easier for the Nets. They have the Raptors on Friday, guaranteed loss. Then they have the Knicks, a game that's winnable, but the Knicks have looked much better of late themselves. Then they have the 76ers, which, who knows what's going to happen there. Then they have the Wizards again. And then finally they have the Hawks, Vince Carter and the Hawks. But, the next 5 games, I don't even know what to expect anymore. When you're losing to teams like the Cavaliers and you're blowing 20-point wins and 20-point wins, when you're blowing 20-point leads and 7-point lead with 35 seconds to go, I have no expectations for this team at all. I want to say they should go 2-3 the next 5 games, but I wouldn't be surprised if they go 0-5. I'll tell you now, though. I know I said this about the Cavs, but they better not lose to the Hawks at home. A game, that game. There's an outside. No, I'm not going to go to that game. I don't normally I go to my Vince Carter games, whatever, when Vince Carter comes to town. I usually go to that game. I will not be going to that game. I have some other prior thing I had to take care of, engagement. But I should be going hopefully to the next Hawks-Nets game, which is sometime in January, I believe. But either way, that's a game that the Nets should definitely win. But I don't know. This team is just, they play so well for about 45 minutes, and then the last 3 minutes of the game, disaster. Like I said, it's got to be Kenny Atkinson's fault. That's the only thing I can think of. Because, I mean, D'Angelo Russell has played fantastic. He's not a closer, but he's played very well, but he doesn't have the athleticism, I feel like, to be a consistent closer. When I say this, I don't ever say, because I talked about this last episode, I'm not trying to say that D'Angelo Russell can't be a go-to guy. It's just that he doesn't have the athleticism and the playmaking ability and the ability to create his own shot enough that he can be a consistent guy to look to. Dinwiddie has those skills, but Dinwiddie's been playing this hero ball that has gotten to his head. Once he made it, he's like, oh, I have to be the guy now. And that's not right. This team plays well for 45 minutes because they use ball movement, pick and rolls, backdoor screens, all that stuff. They're not an isolation team. So you have to get away from that. And that's very hard to do because, as we know in the NBA, the last 3 minutes of the game are usually isolations. And that's why the team with the best player on the court usually wins those games. Look at Jimmy Butler. Look at Paul George. All right? I don't want to say Jordan Clarkson because Jordan Clarkson and the Cavs, but he made the big shots down the stretch at the end of that Cavs game. But it can happen. So it's all about, unfortunately, your fourth quarter execution or your end of the game execution is usually about who has the best one-on-one player. And that's the way it's always been in the NBA. It's why a lot of people don't like the NBA, because what works for 45 minutes will not work for the last 3, and that's why it's imperative you have a playmaking closer like the Nets used to have what appeared to be like LeVert and Dinwiddie, but now it's just been Dinwiddie who's just been going overboard and all that stuff. And that's why the Nets are losing these games, because they play one way for 45 minutes, they play well, and then towards the end of the game, they try this ISO ball. It's not their strength. It's not D'Angelo Russell's strength. It's kind of Dinwiddie's strength, but Dinwiddie gets carried away, and then there's nobody else who can do anything. So that's that, and the only way to overcome the only way to overcome that is better coaching, better X's and O's plays to try to get away from that. Try to get away from the ISO ball. I know it's hard because of how the NBA goes down the stretch, but you got to get away from it. So that's why I'm saying it's on Kenny Atkinson, and we'll see what happens moving forward. Maybe they'll figure it out, but all I know is I have no expectations of this team at all right now. And it's going to have to take one heck of a stretch to make me believe that this team has any shot at the playoffs. I mean, technically they're only still like 5 games out of the playoffs, but let's be honest, I don't see this happening now with the way this team's playing. So, whatever, we'll see. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know who you think is really to blame for this Nets stretch. Let me know if you think it should be Kenny Atkinson or if you think it's somebody else. Is it LeVert? Is it, it's hard to blame LeVert. The guy got hurt, but, the LeVert injury. Is it Dinwiddie because he's been jacking up tons of shots? Is it Russell? Is it other players? Who knows? Who knows? Tell me what you guys think, and let's see what happens, because this has been a very frustrating stretch of games to watch. Like, Nets are trying to kill me this year. I mean, I've never, of all the years, in the last 4 or 5 years that I've been doing this could be one of the worst stretches I've seen because of how the Nets have been winning most of these games and then falling apart at the end. Like, it's one thing for the Nets to fall apart once in a while, but it's like every game now. They're up by 10, you're like, well, it's a loss. I feel like the only way the Nets are going to win a game is if they're up by 50 freaking points. And even then, the other team's going to cut it to at least single digits probably to give me a freaking heart attack. Whatever. Let me know what you guys think. And until then, this is NetsBoy, just kind of shrugging and signing off.